All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next is a fascinating panel that will give us further peeks into the future of content. So please welcome on stage Chief Commercial and Digital Officer of MediaCorp, Mr. Parminder Singh, Head of International Business at Kakao Kids, Ms. Lydia Chong, and this panel session leader all the way from Russia, a visionary from the Familia Group, Mr. Alexander Shulgin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. Shortly, I will introduce a topic. So we're already in the time when the wave or cycles. So we're already in the time when the three waves of the media, of the modern media, we already passed three waves. So what is a wave number 4? So what we have in the moment, and there is a lot of challenge, let's say now. So you can see how this disruption technology, not only digital, but digital, which is decentralized technology, is coming, and this how it's disrupted. You see already how the companies, digital companies, now became a global leader, and they produce more content than any others. Look for Netflix, or they won awards. Look for Amazon, and big brains in the world think that it's already time for decentralized era. So all vertical, centralized systems or centralized media, it's already in the big fear of the future. So let's say blockchain, as we talk, you can see how can disrupt existing media landscape. So nowadays we are on the start of the cycles 4, or wave number 4. So we are someone here. So who will be a new heroes, and how we can achieve this top of the waves to be a new heroes? That's why the two very great persons sitting together with me. The first is Lydia. Lydia is the head of global business of Kakao Kids. And Kakao Kids is a video interactive content platform available globally, and available in English, Korean, and Chinese language, and 30 millions of downloads of Kakao apps already. And we will be talking about what this change of Kakao Kids or technology, because you know the Kakao and Kakao Kids is one of the leading technology Asian or global company from Korea. And Parminder Pari, who is sitting right after Lydia, he's the Chief Commercial and Digital Officer of MediaCorp. MediaCorp is a public broadcaster of Singapore, which everybody knows it, with permanent platform across TV, radio, and digital, such as Channel News Asia and Singapore's largest OTT platform, Toggle. And prior to this, Pari was a managing director of Twitter Asia, and also worked for the Google company. So it's with this huge experience in new digital media, we will try to find out how to achieve these new waves, how to surf to be on the top of the new waves. If the big companies have a chance to still survive in this decentralization movement, and how. So let's think what a strategy for, let's say, I want to say 10 years, but let's make it 5 years or until 2025. What is a strategy for the companies such as Kakao Kids or MediaCorp, to survive, or maybe a benefit and became more powerful in this new world. So please, Lydia, just explain what is, I will ask you, what is your vision and what is the vision of Kakao Kids?
I better, elaborate a little bit more about you have given me for the introduction, because that starts how our strategy goes. Sorry, Kakao owns a Kakao Talk Messenger. It's used by the 95% of population in Korea, and that's about 50 million of people. With that active users, what we're trying to build is merge into the services. It can be content services or taxi or delivery service into the Kakao Talk. So having that ecosystem in mind, how we are trying to expand through Kakao Talk, and then our user is collaborating with the mobile other devices. I want to give you an example that how we are trying to put the contents into the mobile devices. Is Kakao just launched the AI speaker September. It was just a pre-launched. But it sold 3,000 AI speaker within 38 minutes. And just this month, launched the AI speaker, 15,000 only in stock, but it sold in 9 minutes. What I'm trying to get to the content provider is, it's not the device that we were selling. We were trying to sell content inside the AI speaker. So the strategy for Kakao is putting the Melon, the music service into the AI speaker, and then that attracted users. And also it came with cute character as a figure, and that's how we are merging into the device and then contents, and to move to be the next heroes, and then that's our strategies.
What is the AI speaker?
AI speaker picks, like if I say, okay, play this music.
So it's like Amazon Alexa Echo.
Yes, it's very, very similar. And
But why you call for the kids? Because it's Kakao Kids. Why you call it a speaker? Why you don't find the special names like as assistant or friend or?
I think Kakao has reputable brand in Korea. So if we have to put the Kakao something in order to be in a very it's a competitive edge in that sense. And AI speaker will enhance later on. Then they will go to the screen. I think that's when Kakao Kids will come in, because for kids it's visualizing is more easier than picking the voice. So that's we are incorporating new technology into our content service.
So if the kid, let's say, want to watch a new animation, and he asks this assistant or speaker, say, oh, I want to cartoon. So the AI will bring immediately a cartoon, it's a new cartoon for the kid, but it will be from the Kakao ecosystem, or can be different content.
It has to be, you have to, in order for AI technology to pick up, you have to, select a certain content. So let's say, if we go in as an AI speaker provider, then we need to have that certain content when the kids is asking. So it's not like, we have to have a, large library in order to feed back to our users. But that's
only
the idea.
your library.
Yes.
Only your library.
Yes. Yes.
So you like to have some limitation.
Yes.
Why? Where is innovation here?
Okay. AI technology is not just a voice remote control or bringing the contents, but the sense is picking up all these information about people's behavior. So it has to be limited and somehow in the control from our library.
So you mean that for Kakao Kids, the roadmap to achieve this waves, it's artificial intellect.
That's one of the strategy we are going for. And there's other elements, but I didn't want it to say now. Should I?
It's top secret.
No, it's not top secret, but I'll trying to
Because
say
North
it.
Korea can take it.
I think what I want to. My vision is that AI technology is not just a remote control. It's about understanding or personalizing contents, what kids are looking for or what users are looking for. So it has to be more than providing a library. And then I'll be talking about that later on.
When in one hand, you have a lot of chance to be on the top in 2025 because kids who is kids now, in these 10 years or 7 years, became more mature, maybe will have families, and then they will grow up with your Kakao Kids service or assistant or AI system. So you looking to grow up together with your 3 millions or how many registered users? 30 million.
We have an active user of 3 million.
3 million.
Yes.
So 3 million is like a new nation. You will build new nation, Kakao nation.
That's the idea behind it. So we are trying to educate in a healthier way that children are exposed to good content, less of non-violence. So what we are trying to add on to our content library is educational value. I think educational value is very important, and then it merges with AI technology. It's not just only suggesting contents that is what you would like or what I was looking for. It's more like finding your weakness. I'm weak at this. Do you want to watch some of more contents? And it will help you, bringing, strength, make it stronger in certain subject. So educational in kids section and AI technology and merging into it, that's where our, stronger, our strategy will come.
Okay, thank you. And the floor is yours. What is your vision for the more adult?
Yeah, so so let me preface the vision with a little bit of background of not just MediaCorp but any traditional company which has television stations, radio channels, newspapers. What's the future for companies like this, right? In the face of all the innovation, all the disruption, all the big global giants who are sweeping the global landscape, what does a typical media company do, right? So we've done a lot of thinking about this, right? Now, if you look at a company like MediaCorp, and it's MediaCorp in Singapore, there would be a parallel, some other company in a different country, So what really do we stand for? So, if you look at our strength, on the surface, we have 8 TV channels, about 9 radio stations, a bunch of newspapers. We reach pretty much all Singaporeans. But what's our unique strength? What's the DNA of a company like MediaCorp? Because a strategy gets amplified once you understand your DNA, and then you understand what to do with the DNA, how to replicate the DNA. And we think our unique strengths, yes, it's not the television, it's not the radio station, it's not the print, it's not the reach, it's actually storytelling. We've been, ever since we were formed, we've been telling relevant local stories. Now, fortunately for us, storytelling is something that's so fundamental to mankind that it's existed forever. So it's not in the last 30 years or 40 years or 50 years. Ever since mankind became at the top of the food chain, he got into the top of the food chain because of storytelling. So that's permanent, and that's what we stand for. So we believe our responsibility, our advantage, our edge is that we tell fundamentally relevant stories for the local audience. Now, and our job in the face of all the disruption is to ensure 2 things. One, we tell stories that are relevant for the new generation. So the story that used to work 40 years back may not be relevant for a college goer because his thinking, his likes, his preferences are very different. So we have to make sure we tell stories that are relevant to the new generation. Number 2, we have to tell these stories in a form and in a medium that they identify with. So of course, we still have people watching our 9 p.m. Chinese dramas in Singapore, but we have a very significantly growing number of people watching the same drama on our OTT platform. So we need to understand which are these mediums that they are using to listen to these stories and to imbibe these stories. So tell relevant stories, make sure that we are in touch with the latest in technology, the latest mediums to tell these stories. Those are the two things we have to do. And that's our DNA, that's our vision, that's our strategy.
So, okay, you are a storyteller, and but how you want to expand? Only by make more interesting stories and tell or how you want to expand? In which way of the technology, or which way of investments, and or maybe regional expand? Yep.
So I think that's a great question. Expansion, right? Expansion is fundamental to any business. Now, as storytellers, how do you expand? How do you increase the scope of your business? You know, it's really important in these times for every company to understand that the talent, the sum total of the talent outside of the company will always be more than what's inside the company. You know, it's a very important point. You know, we all talk about an Uber or an Airbnb, how they are disrupting the landscape or the business by making use of people who are not their employees. We all know the story. So I'm not going to repeat that. But the same thing is actually playing out in every business, even in our business, in the business of content making. Because the number of, I can no longer assume that all the best storytellers or content creators would want to be employed by MediaCorp, would want to join my company. I cannot assume that. Earlier, life was very simple. If you are a great storyteller, I'm going to hire you. I have a studio here. I have a production facility. You work for me, you write for me, and you create a TV drama for me, or a radio, some kind of radio story or a print story for me. But today, you have the young generation who are amazing at telling stories, but they're telling us, I'm not going to be employed by any company. I just want to do my own thing. I'm going to just create my own YouTube channel or Instagram, and I'm going to tell these stories. Now, it's important for companies like MediaCorp, who believe that we are the storytellers, to be able to leverage that part of that development. So we have an initiative called Blooma, which is our content creators network. So if you are a young, budding storyteller in Singapore, we will work with you to unburden you of the problems of making money so that you can continue telling your stories. A lot of these content creators, young ones, have a great video, they get millions of followers, but because they don't know how to monetize, they either stop telling those stories or get into the regular corporate job. And we want to make sure that we leverage this fundamental ability of these storytellers. So we've just launched Blooma. Now, these storytellers are not employees of MediaCorp. It's just a loose network. But we want to do, what we do is bring the strength of our brand reach, all the advertisers that we work with, and make them work with these content creators to make sure that they don't have to worry about making money, but they can tell relevant stories. So that's how we expand. We expand by leveraging crowdsourcing and all the new technologies that are available for storytelling.
But let's talk about very shortly about your experience with Twitter. The Twitter also was a storyteller, 140 characters story. So the billions of people in Twitter, they also was a storyteller. So what is your a big fear for your company or for your strategy? What do you fear about the massive storyteller, about the decentralized technology, about what? What do you fear?
No, I won't call it a fear, but I think it's an opportunity, which is the global, if you look at any global platform, of course they have global scale, but there's a limit to which they can go micro-local. They cannot go local beyond a point. I mean, if you look at any of the global landscapes, yes, global platforms, yes, they have huge networks, they have huge scale, but the ability to find out what's relevant to the local audience over here is very uniquely ours. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. We have a series called Lion Moms. I don't know if any of you have seen it, which is about the pressure that a typical student in Singapore faces because of the education system. It's about that. For that, you need to address and understand what is important to the local audience, take that, weave it into the form of a story, and be able to narrate the story. We think we do that better than most people because we are here and we understand the population over here. Now, the important part now is to be able to make sure that I tell this story in a form that's relevant to the audience here. So we have this OTT platform called Toggle, which you just mentioned. Next quarter, from January to March, we would be launching about 15 web series. 15 web series. Every month, about 4 to 5 web series, which are relevant to the local audience. I think that's one of the largest web series initiatives in this region, because we believe we have a fundamental duty to perform, which is tell relevant stories and tell them in a form that my audience would like to consume. So yes, there'll be some people who love their 1 hour or 30 minutes drama, but there'll be people who say, I just want a 5-minute drama a week. So give me my web series, which is just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So I have to make sure these stories are told in a form that the new generation and the audience identifies with.
You, by yourself, very good storyteller. So I was surprised because to run Twitter with 140 characters, and very good. And
I used to work for YouTube before that, so.
What is your vision? I mean, if you, and of course you will invest. I know that you invest in Indonesia and some website. And what is your roadmap for investment or sector?
Yeah, I think we are very big on partnership. As I said, gone are those days when a media company would think that we can just grow by through our own technologies, our own stories, and our own talent. We have to understand what's happening in the world around us, and companies that were rivals or competitors at one point of time may not be rivals now, and you have to look at the entire landscape around you from a very fresh pair of eyes. So one of the things that we've done recently is to launch a joint venture called Singapore Media Exchange. Now this is with SPH, which runs Straits Times, which we've been traditionally competing with. But the new reality is that both SPH and us would want to provide brand safety at scale to our customers, to our audiences. And the fact is that there are global players who have tremendous scale. And we have to make sure that we are able to...
Safety from whom?
Brand safety for advertisers. You know, if you're an advertiser, you would want to be in a brand safe environment, but you would want to be at scale. Now that means I have to look at companies around me who probably I'm competing with at one level, but also look at the synergies that exist and get into a partnership with them. So we've announced the Singapore Media Exchange. It's a joint venture between us and SPH, Singapore Press Holdings, and it's going to be launching next quarter. So we need to look at these partnerships I talked about Bloomer. I talked about this web series where we go to creators outside of MediaCorp. And the idea would be to make sure that we are constantly telling these stories at a very frequent pace, because the hunger for content is immense from our audience. So I don't want to be bound by just the people that are there in MediaCorp, but be able to leverage wider partnerships to tell compelling stories and tell them at a scale, at a pace that my audiences want from me.
Thank you, Lydia. You are responsible for the global development of Kakao Kids. So tell me about what is mean global development for your service. I mean, you go to another territory, or you use a technology to spread your content, or how it's work for you and for your digital service.
Okay, we have two different, I would say, for global business in two different sense. The first one is bringing international foreign contents into into Korea. So it will be the global, but the business-wise it will be happening in Korea. And for the other part is we're actually servicing our Kakao Kids globally, and it's also it's available globally in English, and also it's available in Chinese. It's in 10 different app stores in China, and that's where our partnership is coming. So going back to the global business, what Perry says, localization is a key, and it's a very difficult to, for small company like us, it's very difficult to touch in
Small?
every.
How many people?
For us, Kakao Kids, okay, we have about, we just finished 2 transactions just last week. So comparing that, it's about 100 people. Yes, I'm talking about the, it's not.
So how many people will be working Kakao Kids in 2025?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think for technology-wise, it is not about how many people we have, because it will be servicing through technology, and we have a solution that enables us to do efficiently with small number of people. What I'm trying to say is, for global, touching in every places is difficult. We have a difficulty phase. So we kind of narrow it down to Asia. So focusing on China and Japan, but we are, continually looking for the contents from other content provider from globally, and then bringing it to, have a success, helping our partners to have the success in Korea. So that's 2 different sense that we call it global business.
Pari, it's your time to tell how many people work in your company and how many will be in 2025.
I think that's a very relevant question because I think the question will be not relevant at all the way technology is changing. Today, how many people work for Uber? Do you count all the drivers who work for Uber? How many people work for Airbnb? You cannot, because once you understand the power of communities, the number of people employed by the company becomes meaningless. And to withstand the forces of disruption, every company, no matter which business model you have to understand the power of communities. Clay Sharkey, he was the editor of Wired, calls this cognitive surplus. All of us, including you, me, have some extra time on our hands. We are all connected. We have some extra time on our hand, which we will use and dedicate for the passion that we have. Some of us may be passionate about storytelling, writing a book, or creating music. All of us have that extra time. Now today, with about 3.5 billion people connected in the world, there is 1 trillion extra time. It's called cognitive surplus. 1 trillion cognitive surplus available today. Now imagine when you have 5 to 6 billion or 7 billion people connected, imagine the kind of cognitive surplus that would be available. So every company has to understand how they can leverage the cognitive surplus, and hence the manpower that's employed by them is going to be meaningless. Over the last 40 years, big businesses have not added any net new manpower. Can you believe that? All the net new addition in manpower has been done by small businesses. Because people want to now, a lot of new generation want to just be startup of their own. They just want to do what they want without being employed. So our job is to make sure that this question of how many people do I employ become meaningless, because I would be leveraging the power of communities through initiatives like Blooma.
It's a wise question, wise answer, because you try to be a political, loyal to everyone, but you know that decentralized technology, because you mentioned Uber, you mentioned Airbnb, how they disrupt these sectors. So now it's also time for disruption of media sectors, and YouTube was one of the who gave opportunity for new creators and new studios and individual, but they still centralized platform. They still centralized platforms. It's difficult to monetize using this advertisement method. But now we are facing, especially with a 5th generation network, we are facing this decentralization, and decentralization is already knocking on the door. So you know exactly, you mentioned this connecting, the connecting people, you know what means Internet of Things, which will be billions of devices, 100 of billions of devices connected. But there is also a new term, it's called Internet of Content. So every single content will be connect or co-connect with each other and with users. So this Internet of Content will be also decentralization. And as you know, this term content is a king became like a new life of this term, new meaning of this term, because content is a king, because means there is not so many will be in the middle, because media, came from the Latino word medium, so it's like a third party. So in the centralization, it disrupts third party, it's a cut third party. So that my question is, where are the big media company will be in this exciting future? How we can achieve this fourth wave? Or only on the top of the fourth wave will be content by themselves, which will be connected or interconnected by themselves and with the audience, or the media will be somewhere with self-transformation, will be somewhere close by?
No, I think it's a three-step process. You're absolutely right. Content is getting atomized, which means instead of just, of course, you have the big Hollywood studios, the big content producers who are creating these compelling dramas. There'll always be a House of Cards, or there'll always be a Game of Thrones. All that will remain. But at the same time, you will have a whole host of people who are creating content which is atomized, which is small, which is just one video that gets 5 million views. One of our creators in Bloomer is this girl who unboxes makeup kits. Now I, as a 40-plus-year-old, couldn't even understand what does that mean, and she gets millions of views. I couldn't relate to it, but well, that's the new world. You need to understand that the kind of themes and the kind of content that would be relevant to the new generation would be very different. Now the question is, you asked a very right question, so what does a media company, any media company, not just MediaCorp, do in the face of it? I think we can do three things. Number one, we need to have the technology to be able to identify and aggregate this content. Because this content is all over. This kid who's sitting in his home and comes up with an amazing video and then doesn't know what to do with this video. And this happens all the time, right? You see these kids doing an amazing video on your Facebook feed or Twitter feed or Instagram feed, and then after that, you'd never hear about them again. Very talented kid, but then what happened? That's because we need to come up with better identification and aggregation model to understand this talent and bring them all together. So that's the first part. The second part is people like us who've been in the business of storytelling hopefully can distinguish a good story from a not so good one. A story or a talent that has longevity, and create a network of these people who can sustain their storytelling skills. So the first part is identify and aggregate. Second part is screen. The third part is they have to make money. Ultimately, you have to monetize. And we have a fairly established sales force, probably one of the largest media selling sales force in Singapore. And like us, I'm sure in every country, you have these traditional media companies who have deep connects with brands, who have deep connects with these marketeers, and they understand what their marketers want, and they can handshake these storytellers with the marketers and help them make money. And I think that's our job. Our job should not be to try to influence their storytelling skills. Our job should not be to force them to be my employee, because they may want to be and they may not want to be. That's fine. Our job is to identify and aggregate, screen, and then help them make this important handshake with marketers and brand, people on the brand side, so that they can sustain, they can make a living. And hopefully, as we create this ecosystem, as we create this chain, it works for our marketers, it works for the audience because we are telling great stories, it works for the storytellers, and hopefully it works for people like us as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Another question, I will start with you, but another question is, this decentralized technology, we know it's like for mining of cryptocurrency, but the next big things, which a lot of people predict, it will be a data mining. And data mining will be very successfully around the content. Because can you imagine how big will be a data around the Games of Thrones or any other big Olympic Games or Mama Awards, and a lot of data which will another technology like Internet of Things or drones will need this data. So the monetization of the future for media or for content, it will be data, access to the data, or data, sales of data. This will be major of monetization of this. Do your company think about this?
Absolutely, it's a very big priority area for us, and I will just take it to extend that thing a little bit further. Data mining is hugely important. We have a team called Customer Insight and Analytics. The acronym is CIA, very appropriately. So it's a team of data scientists. But we believe our vision of data mining is trying to take data mining beyond just collecting online information. Of course, we collect, just like any other platform. When you go to a Channel News Asia or a Toggle or any of my websites, you are giving me an important signal of who you are and what you're doing over there. But true data mining in the future will be a combination of online and offline, both. And that's where companies like us come in, where we have a composite vision of who my audience is. So this person who's watching a television drama and then listening to me on radio and then looks at an outdoor billboard, which is again something that we are in, and also goes to my website, and then goes to a retail store and buys a soap influenced by all the messages that he has seen, which is a mixture of online and offline, because no longer do you and I straddle in the world of pure online or offline. There used to be a time when we would say, I'm going online. Like you'll come home, you'll sit behind your desktop, and then you're online. And then once the desktop is switched off, you're offline. That does not happen anymore. Right now, are you online or offline? You're listening to us, which is an offline experience, but some of you are on your mobile phone, which is an online experience. So you live in the world of online and offline, and companies that understand that data mining is a combination of both online and offline signal, can coalesce those signals into creating one composite image of the audience, are the ones that will do well, and that's what we want to do. So we have a tool called CX360, which can tell you, it's an app, which can tell you how many users in how many people in Singapore use a bath foam. I'm just taking a trivial example to dramatize the point. Use a bath foam, because we understand the online and offline behavior, and I think that's the future of data mining.
So in another word, you tell us that the media company, like MediaCorp or media company, will become Big Brother watching you. So
yeah, I kind of knew that was coming.
The new Big Brothers. Okay, Lydia, but the data mining, you see, it's a very sensitive topic. So, and about the kids, it's much more sensitive. How it's regulatory and how it will work, this data science with kids, with your service.
Yes, for kids, it's very sensitive, and then there's a lot of privacy issues. So basically, our Kakao Kids, it doesn't have a login system. That's how we built in the beginning. However, when the kids are watching content, so we collect that data. So how many number of episodes are watched, even if it's online or offline, it doesn't really matter. However, we need to go in deeper than collecting some data. It's due to AI technology, but always has to go into this privacy laws and all these regulations. So we have to it's necessary to move to the next step and provide a better service, but we have to take it into very cautiously.
And parents, can they have access to this data which you collect from the kids?
For that data is mainly collected for our partners who provide our contents to us, so they can have better understanding how their content is doing in our service. So in that sense, we collect it. It's not to sell the data to advertisement. We don't have an advertisement model.
Thank you very much. And we have access now for the audience to have a question to our great speakers, please. Because blockchain is a decentralize everything, and they will decentralize not only media sectors. They start with financial sectors. They will decentralize a lot of sectors, consultancy sectors, many sectors. So media is one of the big issues to be decentralized.
Why would that be detrimental for content? Because our topic is content right now.
Content creation will be also, technology will change the content creation dramatically. You will, if you will go for the, together with the new generation of five generation of network, you can make a co-creation of the content by streaming. Not you need to have a pre-production or post-production. You will be stream production. So this is a completely changed his story. You will go for the mixed reality or holograms is easily with the technology of blockchain. Without this, you cannot do it.
From this morning, I've been listening to people talk about storytelling, about creativity being the most important thing for TV or any kind of this thing. Now, if you're going to give a chance to creativity, storytelling, communication with another human being, another human soul, as the basis of anything that you're doing, because what are we doing in media? We're telling stories, as Parry said. So if this gets a forum, which has its own place and is streamed in its own line, why should that be disruptive?
Sorry, the question is?
My question is that storytelling, creativity, things that come from the creative side of...
Always the technology, always serve the creativity of the mankind. And so the new technology of the new level of technology will bring the creativity of the next level. If you will go back and you will see how technology will help with video, with film, with all this, with photo, which was a few tens or 100 years, was really innovative. So the new technology, which is especially the decentralized technology, will bring the creativity of the human to the next level.
But why is that disruptive? That is not disruptive. That is giving a wider range.
It's a disruptive of this existing system and the type of content.
When we saw that movie just now, the gentleman before, I came late, I just saw that film. And frankly, I was quite aghast to see a newborn baby and then lives completely in a virtual world. And very nicely, the filmmaker had shown that the virtual world still keeps the child in contact with his family, his grandparents, his parents. Great. Very happy to see that he was in contact. Although that's not going to be the case. But when you have defragmentation of family, when you have virtual reality thrown at you all the time, what is the future of media and what is the future of what we're doing right now?
Because it's the media now, they have a like a post-production, pre-production, production, editing, and it will be completely different things because it will be just by data mining, and you will see the surrounding around you, or the completely different than surrounding around Lydia will see it. So this will be completely different model of the content creation and content production.
But will that
and
create?
accessed.
Will that create societies which are completely different from each other?
What means completely different? Of course, it will be next society, next level of society. Of course, like always.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Lydia. Thank you, my friend.